We're all evolving into part of the couch by the end of this weekend, but we're still picking 7 winners for all 7 matches next. Wow, it's a PLE not named WrestleMania with 7 whole matches on it, so let's get to work with Evolution, but I did give a full review for my Saturday night's main event video with my recap of my betting record, but I will reiterate that I'm 17-2 and up 6 units post-Mania. So let's get to the history of Evolution, and somehow, this is just the second Evolution PLE, taking nearly 7 years since the inaugural edition on October 28, 2018, where Shayna Baszler beat Kairi Sane for the NXT Women's title, Becky Lynch beat Charlotte Flair for the SmackDown Women's title in a last woman standing match, and Ronda Rousey beat Nikki Bella for the Raw Women's title. But those were different times, so I don't think there's much that we can take away from that card into this card, so we will note instead, just for fun, that there were 12 women on the main card of that show who almost certainly will wrestle on this one, which are Trish Stratus, Nia Jax, Naomi, Asuka, Zelina Vega, Io Sky, Bayley, Natalya, Kairi Sane, Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, Nikki Bella, and then, in addition, there was a dark match before the show where Rhea Ripley defended the NXT UK Women's title, which is funny because Rhea hadn't even won the title yet, which I guess is because it was a non-canon event for this dark match, as WWE recognizes Rhea's reign as just 44 days starting on November 28th, 2018, which is when the episode of NXT UK finally aired, even though the match was filmed all the way back on August 26, 2018. So congrats to all 13 of these women for appearing on both shows, and I'm sure there will be a few other surprises that will also get to say the same thing. So we'll start with the best match of them all, which is the only main roster match where something is even happening, which is for the Women's Intercontinental Championship, where Becky Lynch is at minus 2,000 for 95.24% implied probability, Bayley's at plus 375 for 21.05%, and Lyra Valkyria is at plus 600 for 14.29%. So why Becky here? Well, she beat Lyra at Money in the Bank and then beat Bayley 15 days later on Raw, so she should easily be able to beat both of them here, right? I guess that's not really how things work in the WWE, but it's still only been a 1-month title reign, so it does make the most sense that she wins here and goes into SummerSlam to face either of these two one more time. But I guess she could also get a fresh challenger like Asuka, or even Nikki Bella, or even the loser of Io Sky versus Rhea Ripley. So why Bayley? Well, maybe Becky is needed to move up the card to challenge the winner of Io versus Rhea for SummerSlam, so Bayley could win to get her claim to this title on her way to being a new Grand Slam champion, just like we talked about with Becky over the last couple videos. So getting one more rematch against Lyra is a pretty good way to go here, so Bayley really could be a good value play here. But why Lyra? Well, it's because she's really upped her game post-Mania and is on her way to becoming a true star. She easily could have one more match against either Becky or Bayley at SummerSlam, and it would be a good one. And we may be surprised that she has the most one-on-one and singles wins of all of the Raw women with 6, which is not a whole lot admittedly, but I have to say it would feel the strangest to put the belt right back onto her after just 1 month. So this is a 3-way feud that has been the most interesting and the most untraditional booking that we've seen in a while in WWE, so credit to all who are involved, not just the wrestlers here, but we're going with the most traditional result here, as champions generally retain in triple threat matches, so Becky Lynch is our pick, but with a 95% implied probability, that is too high for me, so this is just going to be a quarter unit bet. In match number 2, I think that's likely to be our main event, and it's for the Women's World Championship with Rhea Ripley at minus 550 for 84.62% implied probability, taking on Io Sky at plus 325 for 23.53%. So why Rhea here? As I always say, well, this is Rhea Ripley we're talking about. And I have to say, she is due to beat Io, as that's the only thing that they can say about this match, because there is nothing else going on with it, with absolutely no story to speak of. And to say Io's reign has been bad post-Mania is an understatement, and that's how bad it's been. And it is unbelievable that it's possible to have the best in-ring talent with that title and then not even be able to get her on TV. As the only thing she has done is have 3 pretty meaningless matches against the rookies, and none of them were after her tag team match with Rhea on May 12th when she took on both Roxanne and Julia. And yes, I'm sure that Liv Morgan was supposed to be her opponent at Night of Champions, but we're giving WWE no points for almost having a match. So it has been exactly 2 months between matches for Io. So the problem here is probably that there's simply no one for Io to feud with, as there are only 13 healthy women on the Raw roster, and unbelievably, only 3 of them are heels, and even more unbelievably, those 3 heels are the only other title holders right now, so it doesn't really make sense to put them against each other. So we simply need Asuka to turn heel here, and then have a triple threat match at SummerSlam between all of the former Damage Control teammates. But I didn't actually say much about Rhea here, but the bottom line is that Stephanie will probably win the Battle Royal, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. And facing Rhea does sound pretty great for the Clash at Paris, and maybe even again at Crown Jewel in Rhea's home country. And that is better than Io, since Io did indeed already face Stephanie one time in her debut match on Raw. And if nothing else, number 1, WWE is at least not afraid to put Rhea out there in front of the crowd every single week with a microphone. And number 2, one more rematch against Io may be the only good thing that they have available for SummerSlam, and that match only makes sense if the titles have switched hands. But why could Io hold on here? Well, maybe WWE thinks Io simply had some bad luck, or maybe she was quietly injured, we just don't know. So they will want to remind everyone just how good Io is, and you certainly can do that by beating Rhea yet again. And who knows, maybe Nikki will win the Battle Royal, and we like that matchup with Io and Nikki better, since Io at least interacted with Nikki backstage. While it would be awkward to give Asuka a title match at SummerSlam against Io while she had already lost Queen of the Ring, it would also be awkward to give Nikki a title match at SummerSlam, presumably after losing this Women's Battle Royal that would have given her a different title shot. I suppose we could also have Becky lose the IC title here and graduate to challenger. Well, I can squint and see the logic to keeping the title on Io here, regardless of who's actually at fault for this terrible reign, but I think it's time to just turn the page and say it didn't work, and the division simply needs a shakeup following Liv's injury, so Rhea is our pick, and we'll give it a half-unit bet. Match number 3 will be for the WWE Women's Championship, with Tiffany Stratton at -2,000 for 95.24%, and Trish Stratus is at +700 for 12.5%. I have to admit I don't have much to say here, because there's nothing more shocking than Trish winning this title here after just showing up 1 week and just being handed a title shot. But I suppose it is not impossible, so I guess we could see her pull off this unbelievable victory and then immediately get cashed in on by Naomi. So I do have to say, I think a cash-in has pretty high odds here to really make this Evolution PLE seem very significant. But we'll note, if it is a triple threat after Naomi cashes in, then we will have to say the bet would become void. But, of course, there has been zeroed build to this match, so there's simply no way Trish is winning. So I think I'd give Naomi shorter odds than her to actually win this thing. But we will just go on saying, thank you, Trish. And cash-in potential aside, this is the easiest pick of the night, so Tiffy is our pick, and it is getting a full unit bet. So match number 4, since we talked about that cash-in, we'll talk about that no-holds-barred match between Jade Cargill and Naomi, and we've got the exact same odds as the last match, with Jade at -2,000 and Naomi at +700. So why Jade here? Well, she's the one who's still constantly being harassed in this feud, and she took a briefcase to the head last week to even get this match. So I think she still needs to give Naomi some more comeuppance. And even more than that, she did just win Queen of the Ring and has this title shot at SummerSlam, so going into your second biggest event of the year, I think you want to make her look strong going into that match. So if last year is any indication, we can go by Nia Jax being 3-0 in all matches between Queen of the Ring and SummerSlam, so I do think there's a pretty good chance they will repeat that playbook. And I also brought up Saturday night's main event because last year Tiffany Stratton went 0-5 in one-on-one matches and 2-10-1 in all matches before she successfully cashed in. So conventional wisdom there is that WWE has had the briefcase holder lose a whole lot because it simply doesn't matter. So why Naomi here? Well, she did lose at WrestleMania, so WWE loves themselves some 50-50 booking. Though we have to say Naomi did win the Money in the Bank qualifying triple threat match against Jayne and also Nia, so that was a big win that you could count in this column since she is now holding that briefcase. And Naomi is also doing an excellent job with this new character, so it would be nice to keep that momentum going. And with it being a no-holds-barred match, Naomi could just be overly vicious and slam Jayne with that briefcase and anything else over and over to her heart's content, but I do think Jayne will be up to the task and show that she is the Storm here going into SummerSlam, so Jayne has to win. She is our pick, and we'll make it a half-unit bet. Match number 5, we saved all of the matches with the NXT stars for last since we don't really do NXT matches, but this is a main roster PLE, so we are going to handle all of them. So we'll start with the Fatal 4-Way for the women's tag team titles, and we'll go from longest odds to shortest odds here. So we'll start with that NXT team of ZaRuca, SolRuca, and Zarya. They're at plus 900 for a 10% implied probability. And yes, this is involving the true final boss of WWE, and she has been collecting those titles as both the NXT Women's North American Champion and the Women's Speed Champion that she did just defend on Wednesday. But Sol's also defending the North American Championship at Great American Bash just a day earlier. So she's got a lot going on, and wow, ZaRuca neutralized Izzy and Tatum on NXT this week. Well, Zarya did just spear Sol 1 week earlier, so it seems like there's just too much going on for them to be tag team champions as well. And of course, we do also have to note that NXT stars have still never won these titles, and we're not going to start that right now. And yes, I will note, Sol is our final boss, and that's because she is a soul snatcher. Up next, we have the Kabuki Warriors of Asuka and Kairi Sane. They're a plus 500 for 16.67%, and it was like they were almost never broken up, eh? Pretty weird, right? Well, I guess we'll just hope that this is not a one-night thing just to get them on the card, as the current champions could actually need an opponent for SummerSlam. That makes sense. But if Io wins, she really needs a new opponent for SummerSlam, so getting Asuka as her opponent could make a lot of sense, so this really could just be a one-night stand here. So regardless, I don't think they're going to win this one either way. Next, we have Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair at plus 300 for 25%. And this is where things get interesting because this is definitely the best story right now amongst any of these teams. So these partners of convenience could actually turn into actual friends here, and Charlotte did hug Alexa at the end of SmackDown. So this is definitely the best story that we've got right now. And based on Charlotte's article in the Players Tribune this week, I think she really wants to be a babyface, so hanging out with Alexa is a pretty sweet way to do that. But I'm also not opposed to having them lose here, but then having to continue to work together to actually build a true cohesive unit, which I don't think is WWE's way they really do things, as they kind of prefer to hotshot titles onto groups like this. But most likely is that they lose and then one turns on the other right here, or maybe the following week on SmackDown. However, back to hotshotting those titles, some would say WWE does just throw teams together and then they immediately win the titles, and I guess they do that sometimes, but let's look back the last couple years to see just how prevalent this is. So I'm going to say off the bat that these injury replacements, they're not going to count here. Just like the current champs don't count, we're not going to count Bianca and Naomi. we're not counting Chelsea and Piper. And so that leaves us with a couple other options here, like Bianca and Jade. I guess maybe you could say that, but that was Jade's 5th match, and 4 of those 5 were tag team matches that at least included Bianca. So you could maybe also count Ronda and Shayna, but they had had some matches a few months before, so they weren't just really thrown together since they were always allies until they turned on each other right after that. Regardless, I will give you Becky and Lita's very random win in 2023. And sure, yes, I will give you what we just saw between Becky and Lyra at WrestleMania. However, that one did last only 1 day. So I guess, unless it's Becky Lynch, this really doesn't happen as often as you may think. So the favorites here are the Judgment Day's Raquel Rodriguez and new member Roxanne Perez at -500 for an 83.33% implied probability. And here's what we have to think here. All of this was not supposed to happen, because we should be getting Liv Morgan against Nikki Bella here. So that means Raquel and Liv should still be champs, and there's not even supposed to be a women's tag team championship match at this event because Liv probably wouldn't get 2 matches in 1 night. Therefore, if there were going to be another everything, everywhere, all at once Judgment Day breakup angle for SummerSlam, number 1, those tag team titles weren't going to be lost here, and number 2, we just can't have this breakup while Liv is out. We simply have to delay that thing until she is back, so Roxanne sure would look a lot more tempting to Dom if Roxanne holds on to that title a little bit longer, right? Besides, Balor and McDonough did just win back those tag team titles themselves a couple weeks ago, so surely we have to let all 5 members have titles for at least a little bit. And also, we did just have a Fatal 4-Way tag team title match in November at Crown Jewel, and in that match, the champions retain with Jade and Bianca. So I do think this is simply too soon to mess up the Judgment Day's gold rush. So Raquel and Roxanne are the pick. But I have to say I'm very tempted by Alexa and Charlotte, and actually I kind of want that to happen since I love them so much, and we'll just make this a quarter unit bet. Match number 6 is for the NXT Women's Championship, so this is a new one for me here, guys, a full NXT match. So let's see how we can do, and we're gonna do it since it is on a main roster show. Jordynne Grace, the challenger, is the favorite at -175 for 63.64%, and Jayne, the champion, is the underdog at +135 for 42.55%. So why Jordynne here? Well, strangely, this actually comes down to TNA because it was announced that the winner here will face Masha Slamovich in a title versus title match at TNA's Slammiversary just 1 week later. And of course, Jordynne and Masha have the history here, with Masha taking the title from Jordynne in October and then winning their rematch in November on Jordynne's way out the door. So if this were not a title versus title match, I think JC could easily retain the title here with some help from Fatal Influence and then take a loss in the TNA title match. But clearly TNA should want their biggest match possible, and getting one more Jordynne versus Masha match is the biggest match that they certainly can get. And on top of that, of these 3 women, who makes the most sense to be a double champion? Well, we have seen Trick Williams win the TNA title, but is WWE really going to already have a TNA star hold their NXT title? And is Jacy Jayne really the person to hold both of them at once first? And do we need to say more why having Jordynne hold both of those titles just makes obvious sense? So why could Jacy win here? Well, the WWE picked Jacy to beat Stephanie instead of Jordynne just 2 days later after Jordynne had her title match against Stephanie. And I don't know why they did that, but maybe they really wanted to give Jacy an extended run here. And she has only had 1 defense so far, so it would be a pretty short run to cut it off right now. And of course, a heel faction lording over both shows following Slammiversary does seem to be a wrestling thing to do, so we certainly can't rule it out. But I'll note here, yes, they also have a tag match at Great American Bash, and just like WrestleMania 40, just about 5 levels down in importance, we certainly here could see the bad gals winning in that tag match, and then the good gal winning at Evolution. And it would be a nice little bonus pick to take a Fatal Influence at plus 200 to win that as an underdog, but I will say this is Blake Monroe's debut match in NXT, at least on TV, so them winning, I will say, doesn't necessarily preclude Jordan winning both matches this weekend, especially if Jordan then gets a post-match beating by Fatal Influence after the win. So the pick here is going to be Jordan, since she already looked like a star with that TNA title, and now she can do it with both titles for a little bit. So Jordan is our pick, and we're going with a half unit bet. And our last match is the Women's Battle Royal, and there are shockingly no odds posted here. But the last time we had no odds, it was because Becky Lynch had not yet attacked Bayley and became the surprise partner for Lyra Valkyria. So I guess we're looking for some surprise entrants here as well. So just for fun, let's have a quick countdown of the top 5 surprise entrants I want to see here. First, honorable mention, we'll give that to Brie Bella, because it's just not right to have Nikki but not Brie, and I'll actually give Brie a 60% chance of showing up. Now to the top 5. Number 5 I will give to Shotzi, and that's because she never should have been released here and should have gotten another shot on the main roster, but I am at least glad I got to see Chemical X at a house show not too long before she was let go. But she will officially be the new indie god in just a few hours after this video becomes public, so unfortunately for Evolution, that gives her a 0% chance of showing up. Number 4 is Dakota Kai, who also never should have been released, and she was actually doing some really good work on Raw, so it was a truly baffling decision there. But maybe, just maybe, she also could have helped out Io's reign the last few months instead, but since she's not going to get that R-Truth treatment, she's going to have just a 1% of a return. Now onto the legends. At number 3 is AJ Lee, and I think she's probably number 1 for most people out there. So I do think we would all lose our minds if she did indeed show up for this one. And surprisingly enough, WWE has been releasing a few AJ matches this week. But I'll be honest, I mostly think they're just trolling us, so I'm only going to give her a 10% chance of a return. At number 2, I am going with Ronda Rousey because she does not deserve all the hate that she gets, as she main evented and retained the title at the first Evolution against Nikki Bella, and it would just be right to see her here again and get 3rd place in this Battle Royal. So I think she has a little better shot than AJ, since I don't know, she doesn't seem to be doing a whole lot, so I'll give her a 20% chance of a return. And at number 1 is Paige, because I do indeed love Paige very, very much. And she has been laying low for quite some time now, and she even gave us a little tease on Twitter last week, bringing up Evolution. So come on, Paige, please do this for us, please do it. I'm going to give her an even higher chance, but less than 50. I'm going to give her a 40% chance of returning. So yes, even though I'm dreaming here, let's get to this actual match. And a bunch of women showed up at NXT, and they all decided to fight each other. And I will say that Stephanie's interruption on the show was definitely the biggest pop of them all. And yeah, she's definitely going to win this thing, and then go on to fight Rhea at Clash and maybe at Crown Jewel. And all of that would be very, very awesome. Now, the only other person with a chance of winning this is Nikki Bella, since it does seem like that she is going to be around a little bit more, though I have to admit I don't really know just how much more, so who knows if she's going to go abroad to France to battle for that title. But I do think she is a great 2nd place pick here, but Stephanie Valkyria is our pick to win this Battle Royal. So there's our 7 matches, so let's recap the picks with Becky Lynch at minus 2,000 and a quarter unit, Rhea Ripley at minus 550 and a quarter unit, Tiffany Stratton at minus 2,000 and a full unit, Jade Cargill at minus 2,000 and a half unit, The Judgment Day at minus 450 and a quarter unit, Jordan Grace at minus 750 and a half unit, And with no odds at all, Stephanie Valkyria wins that Battle Royal. As always, remember to never bet more than you can afford to lose, and even though this has been an absolutely terrible build to this show by WWE, we should at least get some really good matches to at least partially make up for that. Regardless, it will be a great way to end this very long wrestling weekend. So if you missed Saturday night's main event betting video from earlier today, be sure to go right on over here where I definitely pick 4 winners. But for now, I am the SportsZu, and this is a podcast that still needs a new name.